Well, hello my fellow cosplayers, and this is take 3 of tonight's episode. I'm Tyrannus Cosplay, and this is my Nordic Carved Armour build-along. Now, the last stage I seem to remember sitting here in my onesie showing you the gap sealing process. I think that's where we were at. Since then, I've sanded the no more gaps back and hit the helmet with 2 coats of undercoat primer. That raised a few details that I didn't see before when the helmet was much darker. Lots of places that I missed with the leaks, with the gap sealant. So I went back in with the spatula and some no more gaps and patched up all of the spots in the helmet that I missed. So bits where I'd hit it with the craft knife and the heat gun had opened that up that I hadn't noticed. Little bits and pieces like that. So the helmet was then completed. I let that dry for 24 hours, hit it with some 240 sandpaper and brought the raised putty back down to normal. 2 more coats of the primer and let those dry. Now that that's done, I really liked the finish, was happy with the rough hewn look of the helmet and the fact that there were no blatant holes, gaps and cut marks in it that weren't part of the battle damage. Moved on today to putting the base paint coat on the helmet, and I've probably got about 40 cans of spray paint in the back storeroom. Lots of blacks, of course, and lots of grey primer and undercoats, but I wanted to get paint to paint the helmet with as part of the base colour coat. At the beginning of the video you saw about half a dozen screen captures of my character from the game, and that's the look I want to emulate. That's the armour I'm building, and I want it to look pretty close to that without breaking my bones to make it screen accurate, but close. It's got to look like what it is. So I want a mid-grey. I also wanted to have a metallic kind of look to it. Bearing in mind, once we put a whole pot of that wash over it to start aging it, it's going to change the look of the base colour a lot. After going through all those cans of paint out the back, I came up with 3 that made it to the second round of testing, and they're all Rust-Oleum products. Now before we go any further, I'm going to show labels of cans. It's going to have Rust-Oleum written on it. They are not sponsoring this in any way, shape or form. It's just that of all the other stuff that I had out there, Quick Fix and all the other stuff, Dulux, these happen to be the 3 that were closest to what I wanted. First one off the bank was this one. It is a hammered paint, which I think I got for my Kylo Ren helmet to give me a metal textured look that was darker. The can lid supposedly shows you what you're going to get when you spray this stuff. It's too dark and too brown, coppery, bronze, whatever that colour is, bronze I think. It's not what I wanted for the Nordic Carved Armour. Like I said, it's too dark and it's too browny red. It takes you way out of the grey spectrum, even though that metal finish really excited me and I liked what I was getting. So that didn't make the cut. I did have a can of spray paint out there. Oh, sorry for my American watchers. Spray paint is what we call rattle cans, okay? That I brought specifically for this job. It is a metallic range product from Rust-Oleum, and this one is the flat soft iron. At least that's what it says on the can. It does have a bit of a textured, speckly kind of finish to it, much like the spray-on rubber leak sealant that I used to coat the entire helmet with, which is still quite dominant on the helmet, which gives me that grainy, metallic, almost cement, concrete kind of look, rather than a nice smooth flush. But once again, way too dark. The grunge wash on the practice run doesn't work, it doesn't pop, and once you put the weathering and highlighting around the edges on the helmet, it kind of makes this stuff look like cell shading in reverse. Not the look I was going for this armor. So the third one that I trialed is the one that won the day. It is the Rust-Oleum Forged Hammer Paint Primer in one, although I've already primed the surface. And this one is called Antique Pewter. Now I know from shooting this 3 times now that you can't read that because the monitor glare back on here. But let's turn that off for a sec. Antique Pewter. Should be able to read that now. Okay, you can tell by the lid that it is another hammered finish, although the finish that I got on the helmet does not have this level of speckle to it, and that's okay. It is a mid-grey, shiny, silver, metallic finish. Let me show you what we got. Now, the helmet does not look to you on camera what it looks like to real eyes because you've got this monitor glare coming off of it that I've just displayed there with the cam. But this is where I'm at the moment. Where's my little spacer that I had underneath there to lift that back up into eye level for you guys? I think that's what I was using. Gives you a little more height. There we go. You don't need to see my ugly mug, you need to see this one. Okay, so it's had 2 light dust coatings of the paint as per the instructions, and they're 45 minutes apart. Give it a light spray from around about 35 to 40 centimeters away, and a very light spray, barely perceptible that you've actually coated the surface. Well, okay, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, what it does is it makes the surface more tactile for the paint to adhere to when you give it its first full coat. This has had 2 full coats, an hour and a half apart. Now, reading the side of the can, it says to recoat 30 minutes to 2 hours apart, or wait 7 days. Does this look like a face that can wait 7 days? No. So, I set my timer for an hour and a half, which was more than enough to let this dry off and cure well enough for the second coat. As I mentioned, it is not as speckly as the lid on the can would lead you to believe your finish is going to be. I'm going to turn the computer monitor off now to stop this forward glow on here because it looks like it's brushed aluminium, but it's not. That's much closer to what it's going to look like. Bear in mind it's going to darken up a bit when I put the grunge wash on there. That's really going to make this helmet pop. All the wash, the aging, is going to go inside all of these axe and sword slash marks. It's also going to bank up around all the raised areas of the Nordic carving and on these lips at the back, in around the eyes, around the ears. It's really going to make it pop. It's a technique that I picked up from watching Cosplay Chris's videos. I'm going to use Kiwi boot polish or shoe polish. Now, when I was a boy, shoe polish came in a can. It was a paste. You smeared it on, you let it dry, and you buffed it off till you got a shine. This stuff is a liquid in a bottle with a sponge on the top. What he does is brushes it on quite liberally, so not with the sponge, tips it out, paints it on with a paintbrush, lets it set for 1 minute to 2 minutes, not a long time, because then you wipe it off with your paper towel and it takes all the surface stuff off but leaves it in all the grooves and stuff. And like I said, it's really going to make this helmet pop. That's the subject of tomorrow night's video when I get home from work. Being 9:30, 9:45, chances of getting boot polish at this time of the night is pretty slim, so I'll leave that till tomorrow. I've got to work tomorrow night, but most of these videos are shot late at night, early in the morning. So tomorrow I will do the aging. Now, I've noticed, let me put this out of the way, that the last couple of videos that I've shot for you have been pretty much like that. I haven't actually shown you me doing the work in progress. I've shown you the result of the work. Tomorrow night's video, the aging video, I'll film the process of me aging the helmet as I'm doing it, because I want to capture that for prosperity, and I want to, if it goes really well, I want to keep that on record. If it goes really bad, I want to be able to watch it back and cry, because I don't like damaging my work. It's an aging, battle-worn process, so hopefully I can get away with that. So tomorrow night we'll do that. I'm going to turn this back on, which will change the lighting just a bit, but it will allow me to see exactly what I'm filming. Okay, tomorrow night, the aging. Well, episode 12 will be the aging. Until then, I'm Tyrannus Cosplay, and please always remember, it's called cosplay, because this stuff is meant to be fun.